Remember, remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Hello everyone and welcome back to Sky is the Limit. I'm Deborah. Today I'm just chatting about Bonfire Night. Bonfire Night is an annual celebration in Great Britain and some Commonwealth countries. But what exactly are we celebrating? Well, to answer that question, we have to go back in history. So let's go back to the reign of Henry VIII. Henry VIII became the King of England in 1509 until 1547. And Henry VIII is infamous for something in particular. Do you remember what it is? He had 6 wives. Back at the time when Henry first came to the throne, England was a Catholic country. And of course, divorce was not allowed. But after Henry married his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, who didn't produce his heir, he wanted to try with somebody else. The Pope disagreed with his request to have his marriage annulled. So Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church. He protested against the Catholic religion and he appointed himself the supreme head of the church. Even to this day, the monarch is still the supreme head of the church, the defender of the faith. When Charles III, our current king, ascended to the throne, he vowed to be the defender of all faiths, as England is a very multicultural country. So in his quest to find a wife who could provide him with an heir, and of course a male heir, Henry annulled his marriage to Catherine and then continued to have wife after wife in order to have his male heir. Now, even though he could now annul his marriage, he nevertheless decided to behead Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard for high treason. So in the end, he finally got his wish and he had his male heir, Edward, who became Edward VI of England in 1547 upon the death of his father Henry. At this time, he was only 9 years old, and unfortunately, he died at 15 years old. So, in 1553, the reign of his 9-year-old Protestant son came to an end. And the next monarch was Mary I of England, who was King Henry's eldest daughter. Which, of course, back in the day, a male heir outranked a female heir. And that is why Mary came after Edward. So Mary I was the Queen of England from 1553 to 1558. However, Mary was a Catholic. So now the Church of England reverted back to being Catholic. Then things get even more confusing. In 1558, upon the death of Mary I, Elizabeth I, her half-sister, became Queen Elizabeth I of England. But Mary was a Protestant. So now we can see that if we look back in time, we started with Henry VIII in 1509, a Catholic. He then converted the Church of England to Protestant. Edward VI continued the Protestant reign for a few years. Mary I switched back to Catholic, and several years later, Elizabeth I switched back to Protestant. So from 1558 to 1603, Elizabeth I was the Queen of England. She had no children, so there was no heir to continue. So James VI of Scotland became James I of England, and he reigned from 1603 to 1625. And this is when Scotland and England were joined through the reign of the king. Now, unfortunately for some people, James I was also a Protestant. And so this started to upset many staunch Catholics who felt that it had been quite some time since England had had a Catholic monarch. And so a gunpowder plot came into effect with the aim of blowing up Parliament and also killing James I, the Protestant king, in the hopes of putting a Catholic monarch on the throne. Unfortunately for this group of plotters, loose lips sink ships, and word of their plot got out, and their plot failed. They were caught, and even though there was a group of plotters, we always concentrate on Guy Fawkes for some reason. But anyway, they were all caught, and they were tortured. They were put in the Tower of London and tortured in order for them to admit for the treason against the king. And they were all found guilty of high treason and sentenced to death in January 1606. And of course, at this time, it was a terrible death for treason against the king. And this involved being hanged, drawn, and quartered. So, drawn, there's some differences of opinions as to what this means, because back at this time, the person was taken to the execution place by horse, but instead of having them sitting on the horse, they were drawn, attached with a rope, behind the back of the horse. Then they were taken to the gallows where they were hanged, but also their intestines would be drawn out of their body and their body would be quartered, cut into 4 pieces, so that their body parts could be shown throughout the 4 corners of the country in an effort to warn off any other enemies. So when the plot was revealed, Londoners lit bonfires in celebration of the king escaping death. And in January 1606, an Act of Parliament designated November the 5th as a day of Thanksgiving. So in fact, Bonfire Night is a day of Thanksgiving, celebrating the fact that the plot failed and the king survived. We continue to light bonfires in celebration, just as the Londoners did in 1606. And we also have firework displays which represent the gunpowder. Throughout the country on November the 5th, most towns and cities organise a huge bonfire and firework display in public parks, public places, and of course some people hold their own private events, but this is a major public event which is celebrated throughout the country. We even have a model of Guy Fawkes, which is burned on the fire. So the guy is made of old clothes and the clothes are filled with newspaper, and we take great pleasure in once again torturing Guy Fawkes for his terrible decision of trying to kill our king. Of course, no celebration would be complete without food and drinks. And for anybody who has been to England in November, you will know that on November the 5th, it is freezing. This is a nighttime event. So apart from people wrapping up warmly and enjoying the heat from the bonfire, we tend to drink hot toddies or some kind of hot drink that's going to warm your body a little bit. And for children, hot chocolate. We also wrap potatoes in tin foil and cook them on the bonfire. And toffee apples is an all-time favourite for bonfire night. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson and that you enjoyed learning a little bit more about our British culture. What about you? Do you have any specific celebrations in your country? Let me know about them in the comment section below. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a great day.